So let's kick off the stream here, and well, we're gonna play something different. Knight f3, and he goes for knight c6. And generally speaking, when white gives some, when black gives some possibility of grabbing some center, so why not take it? This way, by playing e5 in this order, he's actually he's inviting, for example, an Italian or a Spanish. And I'm just going to play a line that I think is kind of interesting here with immediate castle. Black usually here goes knight f6. Sometimes they play the move pawn to d6 instead. And we're going to see that one of the ideas behind castling is that generally speaking, we play d3. But if black here had gone knight f6, I was actually going to take a shot with the so-called Deutsch gambit with the move pawn to d4, which is, I think, some interesting play. He didn't allow that, so we're going to play instead pawn to c3. And now one thing that's kind of interesting is that against knight f6, we can play d3 and just switch into regular Italian positions, but we could also play the move d4, taking advantage of the fact that now if he plays pawn takes and pawn takes, usually in the Italian game, the line, the most annoying line is bishop b4 check when our king is here. But in this particular move order, we've managed to actually get our king castled, and so he has to play a move like bishop to b6. But I normally don't play like this, so now I'm trying to remember what is the best approach. The thing is, he has two threats. One is a very concrete tactical threat of knight takes e4. And the other one is to play the move bishop to g4. And the idea with this is to create problems here against us via d4. So what I'm going to do... So one approach that I could take is, for example, go knight c3, and after bishop to g4, go bishop to e3, and if he goes and he chops here, so we can then maybe just we can just take like this, and our structure is a little bit damaged, but we keep the central pawn. But I'm going to do something in a little bit of a gambiting style, and we'll see does he take up the challenge. This is just a little bit of over the board improvisation, so I wouldn't recommend it. But my idea is that if he does take, then I have this move. Rook e1. Okay, he goes for f5. My idea, by the way, was if he played d5, I was going to take, and then knight to c3, hitting both of these points and recovering my piece because of the pin. But he goes for f5, which definitely seems a bit risky to me, because after knight c3, the point is that, yes, for now I'm down a pawn, but I'm hoping to recover that pretty soon after pawn takes, rook takes here with check. And importantly, what is he going to do about his king? Now that he's played the move f5, it feels like he can't really castle short anytime soon. So he's going to have to prepare some queenside castle. And so my objective here is to try to recover my pawn, but even more important than that, I want to try and prevent him from castling. So one idea that I have here is bishop g5. It seems quite an attractive move because, again, the queen is a little bit restricted here. If she goes to f8 or to d7, those are her options. Taking here is no good because I will take the queen with check. So she goes to f8. It makes sense because d7 really obstructs your pieces, and then it's impossible to imagine that black is going to castle anytime soon. And now I really just like the idea of capturing this piece. And I think actually black is in a lot of trouble here because still these squares are covered. Any block of the knight on e7 we will just take, and we win a lot of material because black will have nothing better than to give up his queen. So we would win the knight and the queen for rook and bishop. King d7 is the only legal square, but after bishop goes to e6, the problem is that we force the king back to d7, back to e8, and now we can actually win the piece. We can win a piece here with bishop takes c8. So let's go ahead and do that. Maybe there is a stronger move, but we really don't need to consider what might be stronger when we're winning so much material. Now bishop takes b7 here is one option. Rook f4 check, winning the queen is another option. And bishop e6 saying, well, do you have anything better than going back into this ugly square? Is yet another option. So at this point, I'm just trying to calculate, and of course, Queen B3 is a very, very strong option. So really, there are so many good options. Queen B3 looks very attractive because it forces the king to go to G8, and then maybe I have at the very least Queen E6, and that's going to force either Queen F6, which looks disastrous. So yeah, let's go Queen B3. I'm at this point, I'm convinced. Basically, D5 is the only way to block, but that's not going to help matters. And there should be some kind of forced checkmate here. After King H5, there's definitely checkmate here with Rook H4. So Black really went very wrong very early here. I think this move F5 is just a little bit too ambitious here. This idea of F5. One idea that I see in a master game here after castle is that if Rook takes E4 here, you can play the move D5, and this makes a lot of sense. A friend of mine and very, very strong British Grandmaster, nearly 2700, Gawain Jones, actually played bishop to G5 in this position, and we can actually turn on the engine and probably we'll see that bishop G5 is up there. Seems like the engine prefers bishop takes D5, queen takes D5, knight C3. Now giving back the piece, that was sort of compulsory. But after queen to D8, let's say going D5. And the point is, this is a kind of a classical situation that we face often in chess, where we have black has the bishop pair, but on the other hand, white has a little bit of a space advantage here with this pawn really restricting black's play. And so it seems to be considered that black is that white is doing okay here. So very interesting line. Let's see where we could have maybe improved here. I mean, okay, just to take it to ordinary game would be D3, and then we're just in classical Italian game positions. But I wanted to do something a little bit different. And the move that I was actually most familiar with is bishop B6 here, which is a nice move. The point is that if you take this pawn, then black just takes everything here. And it would look, to most people, it looks, oh, if I take here, and I take this pawn on F7, then I'm winning a pawn. But the problem is, actually, you really shouldn't take this pawn, because if you take here, black goes rook F8, hits your bishop, and when you retreat the bishop, he recovers his pawn here with a lot of pressure on F2. I remember looking at this a few months ago. So this is no good. And so white actually really doesn't have much in this line against best play. It seems like some grandmasters here in this position, they just took, and then they played a move like knight to D2, which is just a kind of an equalish position, when the fact that black's king isn't castled is not a huge deal because the queens are off the board.